Let's look at the compound interest. The formula is A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the NT. You will recognize A, P, R and T. They are the same as in the simple interest. A is the future value, P is the principal, what you're starting with, R is the interest rate and T is the time. N is the new label. The difference between compound interest and the simple interest is that in simple interest, you start with a certain amount and at the end you calculate the interest for that amount for the entire time. In compound interest, you keep adding the interest at fixed intervals back into your principal. So that process of adding the interest we call compounding. How many times you do that per year is the label N. So N is the number of times you compound the interest. Here's an example. Jennifer invests $12,000 at a rate of 4.5 compounded semi-annually. Calculate how much she'll have at the end of 5 years. So here are my labels. P, how much you're starting with. So it says you're investing 12,000, so that must be the amount you're starting with, which is my P. A, how much you're going to get at the end. We don't know that, and that's what we're going to find out. N, the number of times the interest is compounded. It says compounded semi-annually. Semi-annually means you're compounding the interest twice a year. There are 2 half years, so twice a year. So N is 2. R, 4.5% means 0.045. T is 5 years. Next thing, we need to replace each of these known labels with what we have. So A is the unknown. Everything else has to be replaced with the values. So A is equal to 12,000 times 1 plus 0.045 over 2 to the power 2 times 4. You have to write this in your problems because that tells somebody that you correctly applied the formula. So A is equal to 14,337.97. Now a little bit about using the calculator. You need to be very familiar with the calculator using the parentheses appropriately. So here's a sequence of calculator buttons. What's in red is your calculator buttons. To raise something to a given exponent, you may have an up arrow or you may have a button X to the Y. Be familiar with your own calculator and you will need it in exams and quizzes, homework, all these places. Another form of compound interest is continuously compounded interest, and the formula is A equals P e to the RT. Here E is not an unknown variable, it is a real number. It's what we call an irrational number. Since we cannot write it correctly, irrational numbers, you are already familiar with some of the irrational numbers like pi, it goes forever. Therefore we use a label. You don't need to know what the number is, but it's somewhere around 2.718 goes forever. You have a button in your calculator for E to do all the calculations. So here's an example. For a trip to Europe, John needs to have 5,000 in 3 years. How much should he invest today at a rate of 3.7% compounded continuously? So the keywords here, one is compounded and the other one is continuously. So you cannot go back to the other formula for the compound interest. We have to use the continuously compounded interest formula. So here are our labels. P. Let's look at 5,000. It says you need 5,000 in 3 years, not immediately. So what you're starting with is different from 5,000. In fact, it's less than 5,000 because eventually you're going to get your interest added. So we don't know what P is, but we know what we're going to end up with. That is 5,000. So the future value is 5,000. Interest rate 0.037 and the time is 3 years. So let's put all these numbers into our formula. We know A, we know R and T. Remember, E is a given number. We don't need to know that. You have a button in your calculator to do this. So P is equal to, if you divide both sides by e to the 0.37 times 3, this is the result. P is equal to 4643.36. Using the calculator, this is the sequence of buttons you need to use. In place of e to the x, you may see exp, or you may have to press 2 buttons in sequence to get to e to the x. Again, be familiar with your calculator, e to the x, and how to raise a given number to a given exponent. All these things you will use in this chapter.